What's going on YouTube? It's Biggs. We got a tier list slash I'm going to show off some builds that I've been working on in the test kitchen because obviously there's a huge shift in the meta. Well, slightly huge shift in the meta where, our boy Whitebeard is probably not anywhere near the top. Just kidding. I actually think he's still pretty okay. I think he's still better than most, if not all, decks in the B tier. But we'll get to that in a second. And because Lucci's Prey kind of falls off a little bit, so does Lucci by default. So this is kind of where we're looking at as far as our top decks of OP-03.5, I've seen people call it. So with this restriction, if you didn't know, we've had 9Beard restricted to 1, Rad Beam restricted to 1, as well as Blocker Marco restricted to 1. So that did do a lot to only one of the decks, unfortunately. I've had my opinion on it. Do I think they were correct decisions? Yes and no. I still think that the guy that's still sitting in the fucking front probably should have got hit just a little bit. And not just one of his builds. But again, that's me personally. Although I will say if he did get hit and this was our meta, this would be Cancer too. I don't think yellow should be the top deck. I think it's probably worse mirror matches than 0-0. Personally, I know people are excited to play yellow because it's the brand new color, brand new deck. However, that play pattern is not fun. 10-drop mom is almost as bad as back-to-back 9Beards when it happens to you. There's really no way to climb out of the game unless you're extremely far ahead, and the 10 drops don't really matter, and them tapping out is what's actually causing them to lose. But I digress. So right now, in my opinion, this is still it. I still think that while Zoro can have a shaky matchup against yellow sometimes, depending on how you build it, I still think Zoro is the better overall deck in the format. He just trounces everything else. If I had to order this, probably, I would do something like this. Ace for sure. Probably somewhere in the middle of A right there. The reason I say that, I'm going to move Croc to actually C, and I'll move Magellan up to B. I still think blue's kind of the worst color in the format right now. I still don't think Nami's a good deck. I've seen tempo variants of this deck pop up, but it's still not good enough. Strawbeard, which is what we're going to talk about in a little bit. Surprise, surprise, that's the only viable option we have. Although I have been playing around with something that I'll show you. Beats this deck still. Being able to draw your life is amazing. If you know how to play with all the other decks into this, it's really not that bad. Even if she has a couple bounce characters here and there, or if she sacrifices some of her draw engine to play like 9-drop Mihawk, I've seen Usopp's. Again, I've seen a lot of different ways to play or build. And overall, I still think she's just okay, and in my opinion, still not better than these two blue decks. Crocodile, I would have left him in B, but he moves down just because, again, Whitebeard, not so great. He's just okay, in my opinion. Again, losing some prey and having Zoro shift to a much more aggressive variant, in my opinion, just pushes Croc out further down. Smoker has the same issues he had in the last format. If you were a Smoker player, you're definitely not going to like playing this format. Lucci's a little better in my opinion, but we'll talk about that in a second as we go through our decks. Law, I really want to just keep him in the front of A just because Law is probably... I've seen people say that he's like an OP-07 deck that came out in OP-01, which I thought was pretty funny, but kind of true. The way his ability works is just such... Besides the amazing flavor of it, it just has so much power behind it, and it doesn't sound like a lot. Sounds hard to achieve, but it just has so much power that a lot of other abilities just sometimes just fall behind that value. And he still has a great matchup into Strawbeard. That doesn't change. I think I've shown you guys that this deck demolishes any variant of Beard. Um, Against Black, depending on how they draw, you most of the time can just come ahead because of the resource advantage. Ace is not a great matchup. They've always had a couple Fire Fist. With Zoro coming up, there's probably even more Fire Fist. I've seen people trying to play 4 Fire Fist this meta, which is why I still have Lucci in A. Because if you're playing 4 Fire Fist, you're asking to get punished by decks like Strawbeard and Lucci, or even the Whitebeard variant that I'm going to show you. Although the 4 of Gordon that I've been seeing is kind of cancer too. It just lets you kill everything. That's why I think Kid is probably pushed down a little bit. So funny enough, you would think, oh, I have 8 cost Kid variants. I have control. I can play 4 Punk Gibson. You know, play green things because people think that green beats red, but this version of red with the amount of not card advantage, but just replacing the cards as they play them is just too high, and their removal is still really good. Which is also why I still think he has a very, very solid matchup into yellow, and it's not as one-sided as I think people think it is. As well as Big Mom, I think she still deserves to stay in A. She has a fun way of playing. I think she's better and worse against Katakuri in the mirror. Katakuri can manipulate her life. However, like she has a couple like extra mid-rangey things that she does that I think Katakuri can't afford to do. But we're gonna jump into that in a little bit. But let's talk about Zoro first. So this is something a buddy of mine has been working on. I'm not a Zoro player. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I am. But we're leaning more towards the Straw Hat version, OP-01 style or OP-02 style, with a Tech Fire Fist. The reasoning, the rationale, again, is if you're teching to only beat the mirror, your other matchups kind of suffer by default. But again, having access to Gordon, being searchable off this broken card, Dadan, helps you stay in a lot of games. He did say that like he can beat the mirror, is just piloting. You do have to play a little tighter. But everything has been working out so far for him in testing. It's been pretty good. Still beats Lucci. I think this is probably because it's more aggressively slanted. It beats Lucci a little more easier. And then again, Gordon is just really good. This isn't his exact numbers. I'm not going to share things just because we have tournaments coming up. But the idea is there. Zoro still opting to play the Whitebeard package just because you have access to great cards like Teach. You can put him down to 1, I think is fine. You can play more of Magra. You can up the Whitebeard priorities. You can play more Fire Fist if you really think it's necessary. I don't. But as you can see, the Whitebeard package is still very viable, very good. Definitely gives you the leg up in a mirror match. Just having these efficient bodies, trading in the 1-drops, Fire Fist obviously. These Red Hawks, overall, I didn't talk about it in the first list, but the Red Hawk replacing the Rad Beam makes the mirrors slightly awkward and unfortunately makes Law's life more miserable. So I already thought this matchup was very much Zoro favored. When you're talking, you have Red Hawks, Fire Fist, Vistas, and in conjunction with Marcos, that's a yikes. Or Robin even. Oof. This is why I'm saying like Law. I'm not sure I want to keep Law at the top of A, maybe somewhere in the middle, just because of how the meta shifts. But that's it for Zoro. Zoro is still a beast. He won Cross AI's $200, funsies tournament. Which, by the way, go check out his channel. Go hop into his Discord. Go play some games there. Some strong players. One of my good friends who's like went from newbie to card games in general to just an amazing players in there. He actually has topped in Cross's tournaments twice now. Second in the first and fourth in the last one. Very strong Law player. Yeah, shout outs to you, Pedro. But yeah. A lot of strong players. Go check it out. Now we're going to talk about Strawbeard. You're gonna notice a funny thing here in this buggy. So I'm sure you guys already, if you know Cross, you've probably seen his video on Straw. So I'm gonna call it Crossbeard for right now. I know it's probably not something new. I think someone said it was in a regional, but before that, it was actually been tested out in JP's meta. I've seen quite a few videos of a player not even playing any Marco, just playing 5 King Do in its spot, buggy to help find the events, and just playing, face. Just face deck with 4 of the 4 drop, King Do's, and just bashing face while buggy helps you find your end game defense. And I'm going to tell you, I lost in my last match before Top Cut in Cross's tournament to this variant with the variant I'm going to show you in a second, just because of buggy being able to find Red Hawks. And then I lost the chopper. I couldn't break through double chopper, which I thought was hysterical. I was like, bro, I really gonna lose to this card? He had no other pressure, just 2 choppers and his leader to swing for game on the crackback. And it was just sad. But yeah, this deck is extremely good. Has all that same pressure that you probably remember from OP-02. We're still playing Ninebeard just because Ninebeard is such a strong card. I think if you're still playing red, I think the one of is perfectly fine. I actually beat the winner, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure I played him in tournament. I beat the winner of Cross's tournament in the Swiss rounds just because I was able to resolve Ninebeard and just pull ahead on curve. I did it to another Zoro in that tournament. Again, them playing the Fire Fist help me pull ahead because what are you going to do to things like Thatch, my Marcos, Ace, and etc. So I had a really strong curve and they had no way out. And then Ninebeard just locked it up. Locked it up really good for me. I was able to break through the Red Hawks, the beams, and the guard points, etc. So Straw, wrong list. Straw, super strong deck still. I think having some of the Marcos pretty good. Again, just for breaking through shitty blockers. Otherwise, the only way you have a way to break through in the end is the Luffy. You still want to play and protect everything. We're playing this in 2 years because it just synergizes with buggy. It's kind of like what we were doing in pre-nerf, where you just played Wipe Your Pirates to help cycle, find your stuff, and just being able to find Luffy and get extra defense. Sanji in our 2Ks, Chopper for defense. You can find your 4-drop if you don't draw it off of Mulligan. So a lot of good things. And then obviously double value if you can go in 2 years into Nami and then Nami into 2 years, etc. And then what I played, although it wasn't the exact list that I have here, I made some variations because I didn't have the buggy tech. I opted for 2. I'm thinking if I want 3 or not. I also added 2 Vista just because I needed help clearing out shitty bodies early. Like I said, I didn't want to lose the chopper again. But just in general, just being able to pop buggies, 1-drops that Zoro is going to be playing is really useful. So I like that a lot. Wrong list again. So many decks to show you guys. But yeah, that's our traditional Whitebeard deck. I still think it's viable. Playing the one-ofs is still really good. There have been games where I can stick a Marco and just have them recur value for at least 2 turns so I can keep myself in the game. But I'm not going to lie to you, not having Marcos kind of sucks. Fawcett doesn't really fill that hole just because he can be Marcoed himself or Vista, etc. So we definitely still lost a lot, but the deck still has legs. Big bodies are still really good. And then Luffy is a nice little surprise in our mid-rangey, not stall, but we're playing for a much longer game than most red decks, so just having this Luffy to surprise out of nowhere is really good and pretty useful against Law. Another card that I don't have here that I was playing with that was useful when I was playing that Law matchup was Crossfire. Crossfire Marco was really powerful and probably still worth trying out in this deck. I haven't finalized any numbers. I opted for the Fire Fist just because Fire Fist is universally good against Law and Zoro, but that Crossfire was not bad. The only problem with Crossfire is that it's not a counter per se like Red Hawk that boosts your leader by 4, and it can only target characters. So if you're taking a leader swing as like the final attack and you didn't have an opportunity to use it beforehand, it kind of just sucks. And then finally, Ace. I'm not sure on the numbers I want to do yet. That's why you see 53 cards. I do like Shanks. Started playing with him towards the very end. As you know, in my original build, I wasn't playing any 9-drop of anything. I was going for Ace. Less on the Fire Fist. I only think I had 1 or 2. Double Seaquake, etc. But I think, again, if you're in red, playing the 1-of 9-beard is not terrible. I was giving Shanks a try just because it's really powerful ender. Do I think it's better than Ace? I'm not sure. Again, I'm just playing around with it. You can definitely just cut 9-beard overall. The only reason I included him was he's just searchable. We're still playing Wipe Your Pirates and Ezo, so searchable target, end game beater is not bad. I've seen people trying to stick for the stage. I don't think this is the correct meta. I think you'll lose more often than not to Zero decks. The argument is, oh, but I can still pitch it as a 1k counter. Still 4 bricks in your hand that are only serving as 1k counters. If you're taking a whole turn to play the stage and then tap 2 for it, that's a big tempo loss in my opinion, and not worth it. So I think if you're still trying to do that as Ace, in my opinion, I think it's incorrect. I still like our aggro plan, having Magra to help boost damage. Not sold on Fossa, but again, I'm just trying it out. Same thing as I'm doing kind of here, like I'm just testing out the 1-ofs to see if they're still worth playing. But overall, I think Ace is still really good. I've beat Yellow with this deck several times. This round table, our Flame Emperors are super strong. And then just Sticky Body. Again, losing the Marco for this deck hurts more than the 9-beard in my opinion. Just being able to, since we're not exactly Zoro, where we can just put one down on our leader and our whole board gets the pump, we do miss a lot of damage. So having to invest on into our buggies or our Dodon to try and push for a couple punches here and there is a lot more expensive, which is why I think Makra is a worthy inclusion in the deck. But that's it for Ace. I still think he's a decent deck. Probably not an A tier deck, but we'll get into that at the very end. I'm going to keep going through our lists. So this is one of my favorite decks. I still like playing it. Lucci. If you guys remember, I hated Air Door version, but at the same time, with the deck being the metagame being as volatile as it is and low to the ground right now, it's a little better than the Navy variant. I'm not a big fan of the regional winner variant that was running like 18 non-counter cards. With Zoro speeding up and not slowing down, I'm not a huge fan of that idea. I think that's a big mistake and will cost you more games than not, just sitting with so many bricks in your hand, which is why I like this deck a lot. Wanzi is a really nice replacement for things like Meteor Volcano. I do like Meteor Volcano's trigger, but it synergizes with our Air Door, and he can come down early if I need him to, kill 1-drop, and help contest board. His biggest problem is the slash, which I thought was funny. It was like, how do noodles slash you? But it is what it is. I wish he didn't have that just for being able to trade with Buggy easily. Garp, you could probably not play the Garp and be fine and up one of these two. I just like Garp because, again, his ability to set up endgame wins is just so powerful. Or being able to come down early, pop something, and then be basically a 6k leader for us because they're going to have to deal with this. Him getting to untap once is detrimental just because I have ways to cost reduce and just pop more things. Or just threaten board with, 1 Don 7k swings. So I'm a huge fan. I'm liking this list for now. I've been testing this a lot. If you've seen me playing recently on the sim, this is all I've been playing. Maybe a little bit of straw here and there. And then finally, our other S tier deck, in my opinion, is Katakuri. Katakuri is just dumb. It's the sackiest deck of all the fucking decks in the game. I thought yellow having triggers was a cool concept, and then in practice, it's just like it's the most tilting thing. It is still one of the most tilting things that can happen to you. So here we have it. Nothing new, nothing surprising we're gonna see here, guys. There's no innovation. Sorry to say, like people play a card or two off here and there, but let's be real, you're not winning because your card choices. You're winning because you have, what is it, like 30 triggers in the deck. I mean, you luck sack, you luck sack. The amount of games I've lost to trigger Brule on my final attack has been more than I wish to count. But yeah, nothing different here. I still think having the vanilla 6Ks in a world where Strawbeard is still going to exist. I expect to see it a lot. It has a favorable-ish matchup into Zoro. I haven't tested these like 4 Gordon decks a lot recently with the deck because I don't like playing yellow. It's not my favorite color. But yeah, so very strong still. And then we have Big Mom, slightly different. You're going for more mid-rangier plan as opposed to like just beatdown is what I would call Katakuri, as opposed to Big Mom, which is more of, you know, mid-range, manage my resources, playing a slightly longer game here, but you're still playing the same overall strategy, if we're being honest. Differences being that I think with Big Mom, going down on life early to have our ability available sooner is very useful, which is why we're playing the 4 Katakuri in this build. And Daifuku just for, like I said, as an extra resource generation in the longer matchups. I've seen people cutting Smoothie and Cracker. I can live with a Cracker cut, but not the Smoothie. Um, a matchup that we're not expecting to see, I'm saying I still think this deck is very much a C tier deck and not a great deck, um, is Nami. And Big Mom, more so than Katakuri because of the cuts we're making, is more susceptible to just losing to Nami. So I like having the ability to draw our own life. Same thing for Katakuri. If you're having trouble with Nami, sticking a Smoothie early, even if you have to play it from hand, is very powerful just so that you're able to see more cards. Because that is Nami's whole thing, is like she's never attacking you, so there are 5 dead cards you'll never see that just sit in your life pile. So I definitely think Smoothie is still worth playing in both versions of yellow. Especially in we're in unforeseen waters here. There's no JP meta to copy pasta and have, you know, tier 1 decks with the recent cuts to the best red decks in the game. So with that, we're going to go on to Law. Law, again, I said gets hit a lot in my opinion. Still has favorable matchups into Whitebeard and Katakuri and Big Mom respectively. So you'll still have a matchup that's very powerful and still worth playing. It's just that red's going to be a nightmare for you. I think Law can go the distance, top 16, top 32 very, very, very easily without question. I'm not sure what numbers we're going to be playing. I don't think Hawkins... I mean, you can still play the one of, but I don't know if Hawkins at 2 to 3 that I've seen recently is still worth it. Maybe still 3 bound or restand Law, sorry. I do like the double Brook. It's just ways to help deal with the fact that there's so much Fire Fist running around in all the top red decks. So I do think Film Brook is a must to of, in my opinion. Robin comes back just because, for one, she's a strike, so Buggy is less annoying, and just being able to help clear board more efficiently. This Nami one of I still love a lot. It just helps in all the other matchups that are not red, and a little bit into Whitebeard. It helps you not have to play 6-drop Zoro or 6K Zoro vanilla or the ST Zoro, just because you're able to stick your Don on your Zoro and it's still attacking for 6 in the Whitebeard matchup. And then, you know, it has little synergies here where you can just free up Dawn more efficiently for your leader, or other attacks for things like Robin, Hawkins, and Kid. You could put Luffy in this deck. It just depends on where you want to go. I'm not sure, again, just because of how volatile the red meta is and how efficient it is at beating Law. Red Hawk isn't bad as a replacement for Beam, just because, again, it helps to deal with the opposing board a little. It's not a great card. It's not for sure instant removal, but it's there. You could play none and just play the one of. I've seen that go around online a little bit here and there, so there is that. I still think one is really good because, again, sometimes as a Law player, you're forced to take life pretty early against the red decks, with Rush being a thing. And then them trying to out you with Rush Luffy. Having that one of Rad Beam, unfortunately, and we don't have access to it anymore, it's still pretty good. I don't know if you want to fill that void with Guard Point. I'm not testing Law at the moment. I don't want to. I don't want to have that headache. But still, he does have his favorable matchups and can still definitely go far. And then a last notice. I don't like this deck at all, to be honest with you, but I will respect the results that it does put up from time to time. It was second place in Cross's tournament. Did pretty decently on stream for PPG last week, but again, it just loses favorable matchups. So we're going to come back to our list. It's okay into yellow. It can slow down the 10 moms, but Katakuri can still sack you and win. And something I will say about the matchup overall, I've beaten this deck several times as Whitebeard, as Red, etc., post and pre-nerf, because people are afraid to kill Magellan. Yeah, people are ignoring the fact that this is free 6k swings. You can live with the -2 Dawn for a turn, because you're going to just basically restart your turn again, thanks to Magellan. But if you just let them keep sticking these on you and trading your board or putting all that pressure onto your life, that is how you lose. And I think that's dumb. So I've definitely traded with Magellan early a couple times to help keep my board alive. But again, I will respect that this deck puts up, decent numbers and can do well. And still, if you want to play pro, probably still the best way to go. So this is how I have it. This Luffy, again, and the Yamato. Yamato could probably go A. I know someone yelled at me last time I put up the video. But when we do get it, it's literally just another yellow deck. Luffy, I'm going to put him at B just because, he could go C. Let's be real. I don't think he has anything on these two. But that's how I see the tier list at the moment. I'll leave Kinemon in B. I don't think he moves up again magically just because Whitebeard gets worse. Doesn't change anything. Buggy absolutely demolishes this deck, which is why I still think he's a B tier deck. There will be several rounds where Buggy doesn't get killed by anything because your leader is Slash, your what are they called? Okiku's are Slash. Every character in the deck, like 90% of them are Slash, and multiple Buggies early will destroy you. It will wreck you. There's nothing you can do about it. So I don't think Kinemon just magically gets better just because a couple red cards get banned. So sorry to say. I think he's still down here. If anything, I think every deck in front of him is better than him. Luffy's still Luffy. I would go something like that. Ace. Ace still gets shit on by Lucci. I think, again, if you know how to play Ace correctly, and if you're playing Lord Loader to the Ground version, you beat yellow. You might have a harder time into Zoro. It all depends on how much you want to tech for Zoro, to be honest with you. But if I had to do the list right now, I would probably go something. Shit, I don't even know. Like this? Maybe? Do I think Ace is the best of the A tier decks? Probably. The only reason Luffy sticks around here is just because he's red. Red's still one of the best colors in the game, despite whatever happened. Whatever copium, hopium, whatever you guys want to call it, that you're on, that, you know, red isn't the best color. It got nerfed. Now we can breathe. The meta is healthy. No, it's not, bro. It's worse, in my opinion, the way it is now than it was before. So welcome to Zero Meta. Enjoy the list. I think there's still a lot to explore here. Knowing your matchups are key, but you're definitely going to have to play around this guy in the very many ways that this deck can be played. And then obviously getting sacked by yellow is the other problem. So that's it for me, guys. This is my slightly updated tier list and some new brews for you guys to work on. Good luck to everybody competing in the regional this weekend. I'm hoping to get in off the wait list and throw some cardboard. All right, guys, that's it for me, though. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.